One of the things that I forgot to mention earlier was that the Bibles that the seniors received today were all purchased by our elders specifically. That was a gift from them. So, elders, we thank you for that. Also, all of our seniors, or most of our seniors, have created tables in the foyer showing the accomplishments and the interests that many of them have had throughout their time in school. And even before that, some family pictures that they wanted to share that are special to them. And I know that they would love for you to take a look at those on your way out. There's also a bin underneath each one of those tables, or just to the right or the left of those tables. If you wish to give them any kind of gifts or cards, I'm sure they would like that too. Those will all be on display for the remainder of the month if you'd like to take a look at those. A man shopping in a supermarket noticed an old lady following him around. If he stopped, she stopped. Furthermore, she just kept staring at him from aisle to aisle. She finally overtook him at the checkout, and she turned to him and said, "I hope I haven't made you feel ill at ease. It's just that you look so much like my late son." He answered, "That's okay." She said, "I know it's silly, but if you'd call out goodbye, Mom, as I leave the store, it would make me feel so happy." Well, the man was touched. She then went through the checkout, and as she was on her way out of the store, the man called out, "Goodbye, Mother." The little old lady waved and smiled back at him. Pleased that he had brought a little sunshine into somebody's day, he went to pay for his groceries. The clerk said, "That comes to $121.85. The man was taken aback. "How come so much? I only bought 5 items. The clerk replied, "Yes, but your mother said you'd pay for her things too." We have a special place in our hearts for our mothers, and sometimes even mothers that are not our mothers. There is special recognition that goes through each one of us whenever we understand that someone has mothered somebody else. I have a list of women, many who attend here, that have very much mimicked the love and compassion that my mother would have for me. I have seen women quite literally take some of our teenagers under their wing and guide them into lives to a greater understanding of God's love for them. And this tells me that a mother is not strictly limited to DNA or family relations. A description of a mother to me is all about the purposeful actions that they show to a child, and sometimes a child in an adult's body, that is in need. There's a movie that came out about a week and a half ago. I know many of our teenagers know this movie, and maybe some of our older teenagers as well. It's called The Avengers. Has anyone seen this movie yet? A few. Hunter's raising his hand in the back. Very good. He's very excited. What you are seeing is a collaboration of many of the big superhero creations of the Marvel franchise comic books. You see the Hulk there in the background, Iron Man there in the front with his laser hand, Thor with the big hammer on the right side, and then Captain America with his shield right behind that, among others. Each of them have had their own movies lately. They've had their own stories. But the grouping of each one of these characters together made for what the critics promised to be an unforgettable movie experience, that each one of their stories collided with each other's. And it earned more than $200 million in its U.S. opening weekend release, more than any other movie to date. People said they loved the way that each one of their stories came together to tell a much bigger and intense story. The movie's unifying characteristics were unavoidable by many fans of the genre, and there are obviously people that are not superhero fans that were drawn to it as well. You know, there's something to be said about the way that we are capable of much in life when we put God in the driver's seat. Amen? But I believe that there is something to be said about the message that we send to the world when we unite with one another through our strengths and our weaknesses. That we lift one another up and we refuse to allow others to fail or give up. 1 John 2, verse 10 says, "Whoever loves his brother lives in the light, and there is nothing in him to make him stumble. See, the strength that we have as many will always trump the strength of the few, especially when we are in regards to God's family. Ecclesiastes 4, verse 12, though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. You see, the Bible itself is an example of unity. That each one of these men coming from different lives, coming from different backgrounds, some of them scholars, some of them fishermen, some of them tax collectors. And each one of these men and their individual stories collided with one another. And we have, because of the presence of God on their hearts and in their minds and on their lips and in their hands as they write, we have the Holy Scriptures that we use today as our window into God among us, because of the work of these men and their collaborative efforts as they have unified these 66 books. You see, it will be very difficult for us to understand God if we do not first understand the power of unity among God's people. The message today is entitled Superheroes Unite, and we're going to be looking at Ephesians 4 a little bit later. But I called it Superheroes because, well, today is Mother's Day. And if you want any kind of modern illustration of what a superhero is, well, just take a look at our moms. Just take a look at the things that they have done for their families, the way that they refuse to give up, the way that they are there for our kids, for our children, for our teenagers. They are there for our families, and that they will go to great lengths to make sure that they know that they are loved. And this is Mother's Day. So, of course, I have to show a picture of my mother. This is the day that Chloe was born, a very, very proud day for our family. And as you can see, my daughter is just as beautiful as the day she came into this world, as is my mother. She is beautiful as ever. Brownies, right? There never was a question growing up that she loved me and sacrificed for me as I was growing up. I don't doubt that at all. I was a decently behaved child. I know that I grew up in this church, so some of you might think differently about that point, but I feel that most of the time I was okay. I had expectations that were laid down to me from my parents, that they expected me to be a certain way, to act a certain way, and yes, I did get punished when I stepped out of line. But I'll tell you, there was something specific that really kept me in line. It scared me enough into submission no matter where I was. You see, my mom was part of a gang of mothers. They all talked amongst each other. I remember specifically stepping out of line and saying something at a friend's house, and the mom at that house said, "Just wait till your mother finds out." I thought she would never know because she was, somewhere else. Oh no. See, they talked. They looked out for one another. They kept each other's kids in line. And my mom, most of the time, knew that I had done something wrong before I even got home. It was an injustice, really. I fully believe they roamed the streets at night just looking for foul-talking kids to wash mouths out with soap. They knew. You see, they looked out for one another. And I knew that if I was at home or if I was at my friend's house down the street or if I was 3 hours away, I knew that if I did something, it was going to get back to my mom and my dad, and I was going to have to answer for that. There's something to be said about unity, that it takes a village to raise a child, that we've all heard that before. Our moms are that village. The ways in which our mothers have collectively created this bond with so many people, and that they have stretched across gaps and built bridges with people that maybe only they could have done. You see, we're talking about strength in numbers here. Mother's Day should not simply be just about honoring each mother individually. individually, but about the collective group of ladies who have gone and will continue to go out of their way to love on those that may have felt the sting of rejection and oppression by the world around them. Again, some of the mothers in this congregation, in the way that their families have positively affected and helped grow this church body by their encouragement and positive attitude about life, I don't believe they get enough recognition for that. Look at the generations that are present before us. Look as we have honored and continue to honor our seniors today, and the ways that their mothers, birth mothers and spiritual mothers, have played a role in providing for these graduates to get them to the point where they are now. I don't think they would be sitting there if they didn't have them in their lives. Of course, and then the question comes, what do they receive in return? What do they expect to receive in return? And most of the time, it's absolutely nothing. Well, nothing physical anyways. They are not compensated for their time or financially rewarded every time they succeed in showing the Lord's love to a child, because you see, a true superhero does not do it for the glory, but because of the need when it arises. A supermom, a mom who does it all, soccer, football, band, youth group, cook, clean, etc. I don't know, a supermom that comes to mind to me is Christy Durko. All that stuff. I mean, her kids are like active beyond belief. And does it in the name of unbiased love and refuses to quit when it gets tough without any expectation of return. Of course, still asks for please and thank you to teach manners and things of that nature, but most important of all, understands that she can't do it without the support of God and the support of the people around her. And that's not just for mom, brothers and sisters. We cannot go through this life and expect to make it be something that is fulfilling unless we first understand that we need the support of the village to make it out. We have a lot of supermoms in the building today, and the message today is about the supermoms in our audience and what the church would look like today if we did not have their wisdom and guidance and grace, and not just one, but of all. You see, Jesus understood the power of unity and what you can accomplish with strength in numbers. John 17, verses 20 through 23. Jesus prays with his disciples during Passover. My prayer is not for them alone. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message, that all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. May they also be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. I have given them the glory that you gave me, so that they may be one as we are in one, I in them and you in me. May they be brought to complete unity, to let the world know that you sent me and have loved them even as you have loved me. He's praying with his disciples before he dies on that cross. And what does he talk about? The unity of his family. The power that resides in being with people in fellowship and in love, and that we look out for others more than we look out for ourselves, because there is a message to be said when the collective whole comes together and continues to provide for that collective whole. It is the unity of the successful love of our mothers that send that message, so that those who are not familiar with unconditional love might come to understand what that means, and not from witnessing one, but the witness of many. We are in the presence of the love of God because of the presence of these people. We are in the presence of God because of the presence of each one of you here today. That someone would walk in and that they would see the sheer number of people that are here, and they would say there is something good going on in here because they keep coming back. And I know it's difficult to get into the numbers game, and I don't want to do that. But there is something very, very spiritual about people uniting together for a common goal and understanding the purpose that resides behind that. As I asked all of our mothers to stand earlier, and then all of those that have been affected by those mothers, and nearly the whole congregation stood up. There were some that were looking around and making sure. But as this congregation stood, that we realized that we have been affected by one another, and each one of us have not gotten to the point where we are at on our own, but by the support of many. That is the message. Not the effects that one person has on a few, but the effect that dozens have on many. The unity of Christ is evident before us today by the number of people that are here, and not just the number, but by the hearts of those numbers of people in how they continue to bless one another with their lives. Ephesians 4, 1 through 6. Let's get into Ephesians here. As a prisoner for the Lord, then, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope when you were called, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. As we are going throughout this life, we must understand that what we have been shown is not just something to be shown here, but is to be displayed in every aspect of our life. And not just that in itself, but the unity that provides as we bring people into the fold, as we go and minister and reach out and encourage those that need it, that it is a chance for them to receive that unity, that they do not just receive a few people, but they receive a collective whole, in that they know that they are never alone again, because the love of God continues to be active in this place. Brothers and sisters, that is a message that the world needs to see desperately. That the unity of Christ is alive and well, and it is active in our families. There is one body and one Spirit. Jesus is not divisive. God is not separating. It is this same God that we all worship. Yes, we have our differences, our families in this congregation. We have experienced hardships. We have experienced difficulties. But the truth remains the same. Our God is the same from the very beginning to this day and all days past. Our God continues to love, continues to provide, and continues to lift us up. So why should we be any different? Why should we stop because it gets difficult? Why should we stop whenever things get rough? Why should we refrain from being there for people whenever it gets difficult? Because I promise you, God will not do that. God will not stop loving you for whatever reason. Look at our moms. Remember the ways in which our families have stuck their neck out for us and have promised to love us unconditionally, and have stuck by our sides through thick and thin, have cried with us, have given us a shoulder to lean on should life get difficult. And they have continued to do that throughout these teenagers' lives. And we see them today about to embark on a wonderful journey into life. And there is no doubt in my mind that they will rise to that challenge. And not just because of them, but because I know that they have received the love and compassion that God would want them to receive, and that they will turn around and do the same. And so how do we use this message today in that we would understand this unity and be willing to turn around and demonstrate it whenever life decides to ask us to do so? There are many moments in my life where I would want my mother to be proud of the life that I have chosen for myself. I remember the moments in which I graduated, band competitions, her bragging about her son and the things that I did. Even something as mundane as maybe even successfully cooking a grilled cheese sandwich, which I can do. I wanted her approval. I wanted to live a life worthy of that calling that my mother had given me, and I always remembered in those moments, what happens if I fail? What would happen to me if I were allowed to give up? It would make life so much easier if the people around me would allow me to be comfortable with where I am right now. You see, my mother did not allow me to do that. She kept pushing me. She kept striving to make sure that I knew that I had potential in me that only she recognized, and that I should never settle. And that's not just in the accomplishments of life. You see, she knew that my faith was going to be something that had purpose one day. And I praise God that both of my parents showed that to me. And I think about what my faith would look like today if they were not a part of my life in that regard. What would my faith look like? Would it be stuck in kindergarten?
Hey, Reagan. Good morning. Good morning, Madison. Good morning, Johanna. Good morning, Johnny.
People are always asking me why. Why do the same thing every year? Why not move on? But I say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Johnny?
Present. I'm comfortable. I know the routine.
United States of America and to the republic.
I don't want to brag, but I'm pretty popular around here. I do really well in sports. Well, I'm just very successful here. Why would I go and mess that up by graduating? I mean, in the first grade, I may not know all the answers. D, dog, E. Hours are longer. I hear they don't even have nap time. I mean, I just don't see the upside. Then first grade leads to second grade, second to third. It's really good. Then you're in high school reading boring books with no pictures.
3, 4, 5.
But he was
Still hungry. Next thing you know, people expect you to get a job and give up summer vacation. No, sir. I think I found my niche. Thank you very much. Home sweet kindergarten. Besides, I mean, what if I failed first grade? How humiliating would that be? No, just don't think I could handle that kind of embarrassment.
I love you and sometimes wonder why too.
That was not a good choice. Very disappointed.
I do think there is something to adding nap time to the fold. I think that's something, Britt, we might need to talk about. My mother would never have let me give up. Knowing full well what my potential was and what I could accomplish if I was pushed in the right direction. I look at my wife, Bree, and the way that she mothers our daughter, Chloe, and she pushes her to learn and experience something new every day. She celebrates with her when she achieves something as simple as learning a new word or learning how to blow snot into a Kleenex. I mean, each one of these little things have grown, and we celebrate those things. And because of that, Chloe has also received that compassion from us. Even in the young age that she is, she's already learning that we express joy with her when she succeeds. I think that's the reason that Chloe runs to the door every time Bree walks in, because it is this bond that I know will push her to succeed in life. If there's a graduate in here, you may understand this this slide more than others. If you're a teacher, then you understand this. If you're going through a test, sometimes you'll get to a specific page in the test, normally at the beginning, and there's nothing on it except for this, and it says, "This page intentionally left blank." I never understood that. We always made fun of it, well, it's not blank because it has that written on it, And they have to let us know that this page is blank because we won't be able to continue in the test without figuring that out. We can't function and everything. Are we leaving our pages blank without even realizing it? Is our faith something that is a blank page? Are we challenging ourselves to write something down? Are we challenging ourselves to continue on this point? Are we challenging ourselves? Are we challenging our families? Are we challenging and are we using this unity that we have received from God in this place to push this unified family into a greater understanding of Jesus Christ? And not just in this building, but what happens outside? Are we looking at our families and saying, we have been given a gift in that we are all straining towards the same purpose in life, to share God's love and humanity with the world. And so the question is, what are we using it for? Are we understanding the power of this unity? Graduates, you are about to embark on a world away from your mothers. I know that might be scary. Take what these women have taught you and use it to fulfill your lives. They have not looked at the days that they have taught you and consoled with you and cried with you and loved you as a waste, but the hope that one day, this day in particular, that when you were given the opportunity to make decisions for yourself, that you might remember the way that you have benefited from their careful guidance and love. Do not put it to the side and forget, but use it. Do not allow your pages to be blank, but fill them up. Use what has been taught to you. And if you need a more graphic illustration, simply take a look at what has already been accomplished in this place by mothers like yours. Know that many of the spiritual leaders and important people in this church family that you trust with your lives, your spiritual lives, would be nowhere without them. Just ask yourself where you would be today without them. We would not have as complete an understanding of God's love and grace in this world without first having seen it played out before us. Let's finish out this Ephesians chapter here, 4, verses 11 and 16. It was He who gave some to be apostles, some to be prophets, some to be evangelists, and some to be pastors and teachers, to prepare God's people for works of service, so that the body of Christ may be built up until we all reach unity in the faith and in the knowledge of the Son of God and become mature, attaining to the whole measure of the fullness of Christ. Then we will no longer be infants, tossed back and forth by the waves and blown here and there by every wind of teaching and by the cunning and craftiness of men and their deceitful scheming. Instead, speaking the truth in love, we will in all things grow up into Him who is the head, that is Christ. From Him the whole body, joined and held together by every supporting ligament, grows and builds itself up in love as each part does its work. The power of unity is the power of God at work in our lives. And it is hard to see Him at work around us if we do not first see the power that resides with each one of these individuals here coming together, ready and willing to serve Him. And not only that, continuing to push the bounds of that unity, in that we are not only able to help one another, but be welcoming in bringing more people into the understanding that we have right now. May we proclaim God in our future endeavors and guarantee ourselves a life of confidence, purpose, and meaningful desires. May we stand united, not just for our children, but for our children's children, and let the world know that no one that stands for Christ stands alone. That proclaiming the will of God also means proclaiming others over ourselves. It doesn't take a superhero, but Scripture tells us that collectively we have more power than even Satan can fathom. It is that power that we celebrate today. And why? Because somebody over 2,000 years ago decided to die for each one of us. It is that death that we have celebrated today and that we continue to celebrate. And may that celebration continue in our interactions. And may we understand the power that resides in this place. Because without that power, we would be nothing. We have been blessed by your presence here today. As you can see here, I'd like to also make mention of these carnations that have been provided by Mike Tinius. This is Mother's Day, and we are thankful for each one of the mothers that are here again. In lieu of what has been spoken about today, we would like to present each one of our mothers with a carnation. But we would like for our congregation, as the unity that has been shown today, to be the ones that go and present that to those mothers. So if you feel that there is someone, not just your own mother, but someone that deserves one as a mother, please take one and present that to them before they leave. And you may come forward at the conclusion of our service today, and please, let's let all of these flowers be gone simply because of the nature of the power of unity that is expressed here today. If you have any need today, if you wish to be baptized and have these sins washed away in your life so that you can experience that gift of unity and that you can be a part of this congregation, if you would If you would like to be a part of this congregation and membership, we would love to do that for you today. There will be elders that will be walking up and down the aisles. We want you to be a part of this family because it will only get stronger because of your presence here with us. If you have a prayer request or a praise that you would also like to make known, you can give that to one of them. Myself and Britt will be down front to receive you. If you have any need here today, let us help you with that, as a family would do, together as we stand and sing.